original schedule, dapat magbubukas na to tourist yung Boracay
Yes,
and as well
Boracay.
yung Baguio City. But there were
Yes.
some concerns there kasi Baguio was supposed to originally open on September 21 last week, pero
September
because of the spike.
22.
Oh,
Okay, let me explain. We were thinking of September 22 sana, reopening to Region 1. But then when we were there, of course, di ba, Mayor Magalong, nag-mass testing siya. So more than 3,000 ang tinest niya. That was nagtumaas and naalam niya kung galing sa isang slaughterhouse, nag-inuman
mm,
yata. So alam niya. So ang sinabi nila niya, and when we were going around, gusto kasi namin mas pulido lahat. In fact, I was visitor number 1 sa Baguio, but yung we wanted sana, yung what we were talking, because this is COVID, we can't be stuck on one target date. So nag-usap kami, gawin na lang natin October 1. Anyway, parang we just want to, although the spike was not because of tourism, it was because may nag-inuman sa slaughterhouse and
yun lang.
nag-increase talaga siya, yes. And then in fact, I said that was a blessing because it wasn't because may pumasok. In fact, the provinces from Region 1, Ilocos Sur, Ilocos Norte, their cases are actually lower than Baguio. But yun, this is just a dry run. So the residents from Region 1 who want to go to Baguio need to do an RT-PCR 2 to 3 days before, and then you have to pass through a triage. And then we'll see how it goes. He's going to accept 200 guests a day. But again, this is not cast in stone. Pwede naman, pag okay, mag-increase, pag hindi, bababa, ganun-ganun lang naman. And so we'll see first. And likewise, the Baguio residents can go naman to Ilocos Sur, Ilocos Norte, Pangasinan, La Union. Yun na muna, we call it Ridge and Reef Travel Corridor. So sila-sila muna ang pwede. Now with Boracay, Boracay has been open to Western Visayas since June 16. And then a month after, they asked kung pwedeng tanggalin yung age restriction. So pinayagan naman namin. So, and then recently they asked na kung pwede they be open to all, including from GCQ areas. So pumayag naman as long as negative RT-PCR 48 hours before 48 hours
Departure.
before departure. Ganun muna. We were sana looking at the antigen test, but then WHO came out and said that not enough studies regarding antigen. So ang gagawin namin, ipapilot test namin ang antigen in Baguio. So lahat ng papasok will both take the RT-PCR and antigen just to see kung pareho yung results. So yun na muna. That's where we are right now.
I was wondering lang about the 2-day you have to get your test 2 days before departure. Kasi yung RT-PCR po takes sometimes up to 3 days. I'm wondering how
Now,
you fit
medyo
that.
mabilis na. We could relax that naman, 2 to 3 days. But actually now you can get it within the day. Mabilis na ngayon ang RT-PCR. But then of course, I was pushing for antigen because you get the results in 15 minutes.
30 minutes, yeah.
Yes, 15 to 30. But then lumabas ang WHO na they want us to be cautious. So yung pilot namin actually sa Baguio is under the WHO. So to see kung ano, kasi of course we're looking for ways that is more affordable and faster. Kasi gaya ng RT-PCR, di ba? It takes quite some time. And then syempre when you swab, you have to do home quarantine. Kasi you were only negative at that time when you swab. So, although for the past 3 months, we've already had dry runs, negative RT-PCR, 2 to 3 days, in a resort in El Nido, another resort two resorts in Palawan, one resort in Bicol, and so we've been doing it naman. So far, so good. So we'll see how this goes. Pero, syempre, maingat kami talaga. Like yesterday, I met with the governor and the mayor. Sabi ko, no drinking. Yung kasi according to MGCQ, dapat 2 bottles maximum lang. Diba? 2 bottles maximum lang. Kasi nagbukas siya ng bar, pinasara namin because how do you do physical distancing when I explained to the mayor and the governor naman, okay naman, magkasabay naman kami. We explained that dapat maingat talaga tayo with regard to reopening. Kasi all eyes now are on Boracay.
Yeah.
Secretary, I noticed we were playing that video showing all the beautiful scenery around the Philippines. Where are you playing this? Are you playing this na overseas or for domestic consumption lang muna yan?
Well,
And
digital for domestic.
Yes.
And then we show it in CNN, BBC.
Yes.
Select lang, para top of mind pa rin tayo. Kasi hindi naman pwedeng wala lang talaga completely because we have to show that we are ready when we open up to international travel. Although now we are really focusing on domestic tourism. And it's not so bad because 2019, tourism contributed 12.7% to the GDP. 10.8% of that came from domestic tourism. So it's really not so, I don't know, kasi when you think about it, noong 2019, we had 8.26 million international arrivals compared to 110 million domestic. So really, strong talaga tayo sa domestic. So I actually find it very funny that we're so anong-ano with domestic when the big chunk of our income comes from domestic tourism. 10.8% of your GDP.
Right.
So, yes. But,
Yeah.
yes.
In the budget hearings, you actually proposed a lower budget than last year's budget for tourism. Why
no,
is that?
Actually, we didn't propose.
yeah.
We didn't propose. That was what was given to us by the DBM as a budget ceiling.
I think so. How do you feel about that? That there was
Okay lang naman because we have this so much fund and yun lang ang budget ceiling. It was decreased by 70 million, I think. Not naman that big. So we will make do with what we have. Kasi syempre when you increase our budget, mababawas naman ang ibang department. So maybe the DBM sees it as whole, maybe DOH needs it more, or maybe DepEd needs it more. So hindi naman napakalaki naman ang nabawas. So we will make do.
But ma'am, I'm sure you're doing market research and we understand what you're saying. Kahit ano mangyari, maganda top of mind tayo. We're still reminding people that you have options. But I'm just wondering what you have found in terms of insights on how are people feeling right now? Are they excited? Are they still afraid? What are their biggest concerns right now?
We had a travel survey made by the AIM, Asian Institute of Management, and 77% still want to travel domestically in the absence of a proven vaccine. 77%. 96% ang hinahanap nila, health and safety protocols. So that's what we're doing in each and every destination. Kahit na ayaw pang magbukas ng LGU, we're making sure that each hotel, whether bukas lang sila sa kanilang city, municipality, or province, we are making sure that each and every accommodation establishment pumapasa sa health and safety protocols. Gaya ng sa Boracay, though they opted to open only to Western Visayas last June, we were still continuing, checking each and every hotel. So as of today, we have 200 hotel or resorts that have health and safety protocols in place. That's about more than 4,000 rooms. So yun pumasa sa standards. And our standards are according to world standards and WHO. So ngayon may health component na. So we're pretty so we're all set in terms of the DOT establishments. But of course, we keep reminding the tourists kasi na-excite lahat. In fact, I was in Baguio, the buzz was Baguio, and then that afternoon when I said Boracay na, nakalimutan na, biglang naging Boracay na. Everybody, kasi Boracay is really our crown jewel rin naman. So what we're doing yun na nga, step by step natin. I was meeting with the governor yesterday and the mayor. When of course, you have to have an RT-PCR 48 hours before you travel. And then dapat DOT accredited. Although in place naman yon because when we reopen Boracay, gano'n naman talaga. You cannot open without DOT accreditation. And then you are given a QR code. So that QR code is your code in Boracay. Yun ang wherever you go, that's where you swipe every establishment you go to. Tapos yun will serve as contact tracing.
Before the pandemic, you were telling us about local government officials who were not cooperating with your efforts to promote tourism, to clean up places. Kumusta naman ngayon?
It's not a problem now because they've seen, dati ayaw nila ng carrying capacity. Now, everybody understands the importance of carrying capacity because now of COVID. kailangan may physical distancing. And then now, well, I guess I'm just like a half, I have to be half full person na the only good thing probably about COVID is like the environment it's never been so beautiful. I was in Bohol, Panglao, Bohol. Ang ganda-ganda. Because nga,
No peace.
but no pollution, no nakarest yung and then Boracay, I was there last June. Sabi nga ng governor, may mga sea creatures na nakita daw niya last nung bata pa siya. Ngayon, lumalabas na. So, I mean, these are the things. And of course, because of, I've always wanted to go contactless and digital. Kasi I've always believed that that was the way to go for tourism. And that was the way para yung less yung, kasi pag may face-to-face, di ba, bumabagal. So now, because of COVID, everything now has to be digital and contactless. So in fact, today, we launched our DOT accreditation online. So everything now will be online and once lang ang face-to-face. So that will be very good at anti-red tape and ease of doing business. So these are the things now. We'll just look at it that way.
So if you had 2 million foreign visitors last year, what do you expect naman in 2021 instead of in terms of international?
I wish I could tell you. But you will see nobody is giving any predictions. For example, this year, Bali wanted to open up for international tourists and then biglang hindi na. Domestic tourism na lang. I don't think you can point out any country that will give any prediction because the virus, it changes every single day. So even if you ask me my forecast for 2021, that's quite hard because it's so fluid. Everything is so fluid. But then but yung swerte lang ng Pilipinas is the big, like in other countries talaga, yung kanilang income from tourism is from international tourists. Tayo, it's really from domestic tourism naman. So, kahit pa paano, basta mag-travel, okay lang tayo.
Yeah.
Ma'am, of course, we want all the success, not just for the tourism sector, but for the whole country. But let's talk, I mean, if you don't mind, worst case scenarios. Meron po ba tayong fail-safe mechanism? Is there anything that would trigger a reconsideration of the domestic tourism push?
Always na lang. Actually, my problem now is the tourist destinations are hesitant to open up. Some tourist destinations have even told me that they're waiting for a vaccine. And then at the same time, yung mga stakeholders doon, umiiyak naman sa akin dahil wala silang trabaho. So that's my problem now, how to balance the economy and health and safety being the priority. Last year, noong 2019, tourism employed 5.7 million people. In our study now, 4.8 million have been affected, either nawala ng trabaho or naging underemployed. So ganyan kalaki yung tama sa tourism industry. So yun na lang health and safety protocols, isa-isa, and then yun na nga, with Baguio, kami yung nagbigay ng kanilang digital online platform. Kami yung and then so far it's been parang maayos naman, and we plan to replicate this in all tourist destinations. So bago ka pumunta doon, dapat online yung registration mo. And so we're looking now at best practices. So now we will have Baguio and then Boracay also. But yes.
Magsundutin ko lang yan, if you don't mind. Batanes just reported their first case today, and just because of that one case, Batanes said, we want to be under ECQ. Pagdating po sa Boracay, again, we're wishing Boracay all the best. We're all looking at Boracay. Ang laking nakasalalay ngayon sa Boracay.
Correct.
But in case there's one case or two cases, I mean, at what point does Boracay itself feel that, teka muna, we may have rushed this a bit?
Oo. For example, in Batanes, actually, they were never open to tourists, even without cases. So the governor already told us she didn't want to open up even to domestic tourism for this year. Now, with Boracay, pinag-usapan na namin with governor. Let's say, now kasi zero ang cases sa Boracay. So let's say mangyayari yan. What if magkaroon ng positive? So for example, alam na namin kung may like from ginawa na namin ni Governor, we simulated it na. Pagkadating mo pa lang sa okay, kunyari negative na RT-PCR mo, on the day itself, biglang may sore throat ka, sinisipon ka, hindi ka na magka-travel. No symptoms dapat. Now, let's say, pagka-land mo, tapos biglang inuubo ka na, may isolation facility na sila before you even ride the jetty. Now, let's say, pagka-cross mo na ng island, tapos nandoon, biglang inuubo ka na, nilalagnat ka na, dadaling ka na agad sa Kalibo, sa isolation facility at itetest ka na doon. And may mga quarantine hotels na sila. So, yun, inano na namin isa-isa. And by the way, I'm leaving for Boracay. Kasama ko ang Makati Medical Foundation. And they're joining me because they're going to, they've already upgraded the hospital in Boracay. So they will still continually, si Marge Makasa Baro, she's such an angel. When she found out magbubukas na ang Makati Med, she asked me paano pa daw sila makakatulong. Kasi they want to prepare yung any emergencies, hindi lang COVID, ang hospital sa Boracay itself. Diba that was the perennial problem. But now, thanks to the Makati Medical Foundation and MVP, yun, matutulungan tayo. So kasama ko yung mga, the Makati Medical team when we leave for Boracay.
Ma'am, a while ago, you're talking about actions to take in case symptoms arise. Pero 80% of those COVID positive do not even show symptoms, if at all mild symptoms.
Yes.
Well, just to follow up on Robbie's question, is there a number or a trigger number which would make the DOT or the national government decide to clamp down on Boracay again?
Oo, actually ako pa lang, I talked to the governor yesterday about it. Let's say, sabi ko, let's say nasa hotel na, nag-positive. So syempre kailangan mo muna i-close yung hotel. I-quarantine mo lahat, di ba? Kailangan you have to do contact tracing. I'm actually we're going to be with the DOH when we go. I want to know kasi malaki yung Boracay, ano yung trigger, but definitely una, ika-quarantine mo yung hotel. Close muna siya. And dapat sanitize, dapat lahat ng positive or maybe yung close contact, dapat anuin natin, idala na agad sa quarantine hotel, which is not located in Boracay, but in Kalibo. So yun muna. But yun, i-discuss pa namin with the DOH. Pero ako, I'm very cautious ha. Ako, kunyari, kukunti pa lang, I'm not afraid to, kasi, alam mo, I've learned a lot from Mayor Magalang. I've been spending a lot of time with him. And he told me, alam mo yung mga target na yan, wala na yan. The situation is fluid. Don't be afraid to lock down if you have to. Localize lockdown if you have to. Because this is already health and safety. And if the people see that hindi ka nagpapabaya. So kunyari, for me, kung pwede yung hotel. Pero let's say, kung buong Station 1, gagawin natin. Depende kung saan pumunta yung tao. It's the contact tracing. Kung minalas ako, yung positive na yun, nagpunta from Station 1 to 3, we may have to close that first, di ba? Kasi we
hyper-localized lockdowns possibility.
Localized muna. The Magalong method is localized lockdown first. But let's say that person, nag-enjoy siya from Station 1, 2, 3, umikot siya. No choice. But again, it's case-to-case basis. Yeah. But again, with me, I am not afraid first of all, you have to be transparent. Kung meron isa, please tell everybody. Diba? Kasi everybody naman knows that this virus is quite new. Yun na nga, maraming asymptomatic. So for me, I always tell the tourists, and it's so ironic, I always tell the tourists, I'm the tourism secretary, but I keep telling people, we're restarting tourism, but there's still COVID. Wear a mask, watch your distance. In other countries na, it's 6 feet apart. And always wash your hands. Ganon palagi. That's always my... So that's why nga I told the mayor and governor, wala na munang party ha. Walang drinking. Kasi pag may drinking, pag lasing, mawawala na yung physical distancing. I know people go to Boracay to party, but I think now is not the time. Because we have to be careful.
Secretary, you mentioned the improvements in the environment. Are you seeing any other opportunities for the long term in the new ways of doing tourism?
In our survey, we asked them, what do you want to do during COVID in the absence of a vaccine? Number one is still sun and beach. They want fresh air. Ang lumitaw was farm tourism. They want to see where their food grows. Basta gusto nila lahat open air. Ayaw na ng mga, we surveyed more than 12,000 people all over the country. Ayaw na ng yung malaking tour group, dapat small. Gusto ng mga mountain climbing, yun na mga all fresh air. Ang swerte naman natin, most of our tourism products are really about nature. So, culture, open air. So, yun. So, we are catering now to what the market wants. And ang swerte naman natin, we have 10 tourism products, tugmang-tugma most of our tourism products with what the tourists want during the time of COVID under the new normal.
What are those products when you say tourism?
Okay, sun and beach, diving, culture, we have, sorry hindi ko ma-memorize, ang nawal, yes, of course, kasama ang food kasi sa culture sa culture, sports tourism, ESL, English as second language, though they go physically to Cebu or Baguio, you can do it naman online. So yon, buhay pa rin siya. Let me mention it, but then we have 10 and farm tourism pala, farm tourism, adventure tourism. So, buhay na buhay pa rin talaga. And by the way,
there's a phone-in question for me here.
Baka si Jovi lang yan, ha? Si Jovi lang yung phone-in question na yan.
Hindi, kunyari daw, those who have relatives in a tourist destination and they don't want to have to check in, paano yung mga ganun? Can they stay with their families?
Depends on relatives. May testing pa rin. Everybody coming from the outside has to test. Ang hindi lang kailangan mag-test, kunyari you're from Aklan, no need to test kasi you're within the province. Like in Baguio, within Benguet, no test yan. Pero kung galing ibang province, lahat yan mag-test. RT-PCR.
Ma'am, the last time you were here, we talked about yung mga accommodations, especially the big hotels, the big resorts. Medyo kampante pa sila that they have scale and they can adjust to the new normal in the business environment. But we asked you, ano yung implications for the small people, for people doing Airbnb, yung mga nagpapa-homestay, yung mga pa-isa-isang room lang yung napaparent nila. What are the implications in this new normal for the people who want to take a stake in the tourism sector, pero hanggang ganyan lang yung muna yung bakas nila?
Would you believe ang Airbnb dati hindi yan on their own, hindi yan kailangan ng DOT accreditation. Pero ngayon, all accommodation establishments, because we have to make sure that health and safety protocols are in place. Yun. So marami nga sa Lake Boracay. I had 2 in the morning, I received a call from a friend of mine who was Swiss. Tapos nasa Airbnb sila, hindi makahinga. Pero hindi ko naman pwedeng sabihin, hindi accredited yan. So kami naghanap at 2 to 3 in the morning ng doktor, etc. Pero ngayon, hindi na pwede yung gano'n na papalusutin. Dapat talaga on call yung mga doktor, yung first aid, dapat health and safety protocols sa alam ng may-ari ng Airbnb or ng accommodation facility, anong gagawin in case of an emergency. Hindi na pwedeng kaya that. Yes.
So kung ako po, mag-Airbnb ako, as we said, in this new normal, I go for accreditation with the DOT or with my LGU or both?
DOT first. DOT. And then, of course, you need a business license with the LGU.
Kumusta yung mga assistance packages for the tourism industry? Lalo na yung mga travel agencies.
Yes.
Marami silang hinihinga, di ba? Kumusta na yung...
Nung bayanihan we are so grateful naman to the BICAM na nag-allot sila ng 6 billion for working capital, but this is under SB Corps. Kasi wala naman kaming lending agency So it's under SB Corps. And then they allotted 3 billion for cash for work with DOLE naman. But then, pagkausapin mo lahat ng sa tourism industry, of course, masaya sila may working capital loan. Masaya sila may cash for work. But nothing beats na may trabaho sila. So they all are batting for restarting tourism. So yun na nga marami nagrereklamo na ano ba yan, may RT-PCR, mahal, etc. Ang lagi kong sinasabi, buti nga nakabukas na tayo. Hindi naman ito all or nothing. Unti-untiin lang natin, di ba? Kasi may COVID pa. Buksan lang natin, who knows kung yung antigen, yung pilot testing namin with Baguio, maging successful o di mas magmumura. Because we have to learn about the virus, we have to live with the virus. So ngayon, masaya lang ako na pumayag na, imagine even from GCQ to MGCQ. Kasi pag GCQ, dapat bawal ang leisure. Pero pumayag na. Tapos wala ng age restriction. So at least yon unti-unti. And then hopefully our pilot testing regarding antigen will be successful. Yung results with the RT-PCR will be the same. So we can eventually use antigen testing para mas mabilis at mas mura.
Anong region ang pinaka nag-suffer ang tourism year on year?
Well, NCR. NCR talaga ang yung nag-suffer. But, well, next, di ba, naging ECQ ang Cebu, but now they're doing very well. They're MGCQ now. With tourist destinations, it would be Boracay because that's our number one. Siyempre, wala. Although zero ang COVID nila, wala naman makapunta.
But
So,
Palawan, for example. hindi ba?
Palawan, nag-suffer rin, pero I've been talking to, the governor naman is very supportive, but the mayors, they don't want to open. Only one mayor agreed to open sa El Nido, pero one resort lang.
Pero yung
So,
mga Coon, di ba? Kasi
Pero ayaw magbukas. Ayaw
very
magbukas ng
popular
Puerto
last year.
Princesa. Ayaw magbukas ng ano. Hindi ko naman mapilit kasi first of all, they are elected. And syempre, nag-aalala sila because though maraming nagugutom na ngayon sa tourism sector, kawawang-kawawa,
Yes.
yung non-tourism naman, takot na takot.
Oo.
So again, it's balancing di ba? So we're hoping, so far naman yung sa El Nido, one resort is open, RT-PCR, okay naman, very good naman yung results. No positive, no outbreak. So I'm going to talk to the mayor again if she is open to opening more resorts in El Nido.
So,
Ma'am, yung sa Boracay kasi pinapayagan yung anybody from GCQ areas, including Metro Manila, can go to Boracay. I'm wondering about places like Baguio, where you have to be from Region 1 to get in. When are they going to, I mean, who makes those decisions? Are these LGU
LGU.
decisions
LGU
in its
decision.
entirety? Wala
LGU.
doon ng national government.
No, we can only give, we can only say, pag MGCQ, pwede ng tourism. Like Baguio has been under a modified GCQ since June 1. But they only are allowing tourism October 1. Because syempre, they know their own, di ba, they know their own, yung mga capacity nila, etc. So, we have to work closely with the LGU.
Ma'am, we were talking to the mayor of Malay a few days ago, and we asked a question. It was rather ironic, but at the same time understandable. That given the balance between supply and limited capacity on one hand, and then demand on the other hand, as well as the desperation and the eagerness of businesses to reopen, ano po yung net effect? Nagmura ba or nagmahal? Let's say Boracay.
Ang mga resorts, I heard, yung mga iba up to 75% off ngayon. Yes. But of course, kasi syempre they have to attract visitors. But of course, may magrereklamo pa rin. Bakit may RT-PCR pa rin? But of course, you have to, if that's the way to open up, and right now RT-PCR is your gold standard, then yun na muna, unti-unti, diba? Para naman nakabukas at least.
Yeah. Is there going to be a new branding, do you think, for
Yes.
the country coming into, the 2021 pandemic, and especially when the vaccine is finally here?
Actually, now it's all about health and safety protocols. Ang pinagyayabang namin talaga ngayon is we are ready and health and safety protocols are in place. Kasi based on the survey, di ba dati, you wanna go to a tourist spot kasi ang ganda-ganda ng resort, ang ganda-ganda ng sunset, ang ganda-ganda ng beach. Ngayon, am I safe? May hospital ba? How are they equipped for medical emergencies? So, ganun ngayon yung, pero okay lang. I mean, that's how it is in tourism. You really have to adjust to your market. diba?
Yes, but ma'am, does the market survey give us an idea of what our baseline is right now? In other words, given the number of COVID cases here relative to the other countries, ano yung baseline perception ng mga tourists, international tourists, especially sa
Actually,
Pilipinas right now when it comes to safe ba ako magpunta dyan?
ano mo, ang swerte ng Pilipinas, we have 7,641 islands and 12 international airports. We just had a MICE event, Meetings, Incentives, Convention Exhibition
Conventions
in
event.
Panglao.
Hmm.
We had more than 100 people from NCR fly to Panglao. And we held the FITEX, that's the largest government trade event. Our locals went to NCR. Our locals from NCR went to Panglao. And of course, it was a hybrid edition, first in the country. A hybrid edition where we had, syempre, all the buyers, it was virtual, but all the locals were there after the buying and selling. Dito ako nagulat. Lahat ng buyers gusto pa rin pumunta sa Pilipinas when travel restrictions are lifted. Now, balik tayo sa 7,641 islands. For example, Panglao is ready to accept international tourists. You have an international airport. Pwede naman dumiretso doon, hindi naman kailangan dumaan sa NAIA. Even Boracay has an international airport. So does Iloilo, Davao, all Cebu. They all have international airports. It's just that kung ready mag-accept. But of course, like for example, alam ko sa Boracay, nagpaplano na sila ng international. Ang sinasabi ko naman, hinay-hinay muna tayo, testing muna natin itong domestic. Di ba? Slow but sure lang tayo.
Yeah.
Oo.
Last question. How does your survey or your projections for domestic tourism square with the SWS survey today saying that essentially 9 out of 10 Filipinos are afraid of COVID, that they might catch COVID? How do you get around that, no?
Yun na nga, kaya nga nagulat ako, 77% still want to travel in the absence of a vaccine.
Yeah, pero
Oo, pero it's more of, I think, the fresh air, probably. They want to, but ito yung sinabi rin ng survey. Like from NCR, they want to go by land. So that's why when we said that Baguio was opening, akala nila pwede na from NCR. I had to tell people, hindi muna. Kasi yun ang summer capital natin. Di ba when it comes to domestic tourism, when it NCR, punta natin is Baguio. Or yung mga millennials, or my daughter calls herself a zillennial, they go to La Union, El Union. Yan, mga by land. Ang gusto muna nila is by land. Una, within the municipality, within the city, or within the island. So, they could go by Ilocos Norte, Ilocos Sur. So, yun, piniprepare na rin namin. And then, yung mga iba naman, but you'd be so surprised marami ngayon, walang tigil. People I don't know, they wanna go to Boracay, nagre-reklamo, bakit kailangan daw ng RT-PCR pa? So, yun, we'll see. Pero yun na nga, the survey shows that takot nga sa COVID, pero they wanna travel by land. Diba magkaka-staycation nga kami, dapat October 1. Excited naman lahat. Pero we're still, yung guidelines just came out today. Ang pinag-agreean is, ang staycation dapat hindi halo sa quarantine facility. Kasi most of our hotels are quarantine facilities. Hinihingi ng mga hotel kung pwedeng mix. Pero, syempre, sabi naman ng mga health experts natin, hindi naman pwedeng one floor quarantine, one floor staycation.
Right.
Kailangan pure staycation. So, yun. Unti-unti, pero yung staycation, gusto na rin ng mga iba, makaalis lang ng bahay.
Right.
It's I guess the travel, no? People still want to travel. I think it's just if they feel that they are safe. Doon, tugma naman yan sa SWS. They're scared of COVID. That's why they are looking at 96% are looking for health and safety protocols in the destination. So if they feel they are safe, they will go.
Actually, ma'am, may ginawang mag-travel na takot eh.
Mas maganda nga yun eh.
Di ba?
Pero
That's a safer way of doing it.
Ang dapat, hindi lang takot ka, pero dapat isipin mo nga may COVID ka kasi baka naman you become lax, you don't wear your mask anymore. Like honestly, when I was in Baguio, that is your new normal. People were eating out. It was so normal. In Burnham Park, people were walking. But then everybody was wearing a mask. Yun na yung new normal mo. That's why nga when we are, the IATF is going to make their new normal guidelines. Sabi ko, umakyat kayo ng Baguio, yan na ang new normal ninyo. You can, ano naman you can exist, you can go out of the house. Precaution lang. Dapat nga, tama ka Ed, dapat takot.
Okay. Ma'am, maraming salamat for joining us tonight. Always a pleasure to have you with us, Tourism Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puyat. Thank you po.
Maraming salamat po.
Thank you.
And we hope to be able to visit Boracay.
Have fun kahit takot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we'll just pause for a break, so please stay with us.
Welcome back to the Chiefs. We're now in the final stage of our conversation. And now we'd like to welcome Department of Education Undersecretary Diosdado San Antonio. USEC San Antonio, good evening po and welcome to the Chiefs.
Good evening po.
Greetings, sir.
Yes.
Hello.
USEC, in a few days, mag-uumpisa na sa public school. Finally, siguro wala nang postponement, ano? October 5, tuloy na. But are you seeing any potential problems pa rin at this point? Kumusta po yung preparations natin?
Kami po, we have just met with our regional directors last Sunday, and we were assured that the preparations are on track. Of course, we have like more than 47,000 schools, and personally, I feel that we cannot really assure that 47,000 schools will not have like challenges. So we hope that the challenges would not be as grave as our fears.
Magkakaroon pa ba ng dry run before Monday? Kasi magkakaroon daw eh.
Ongoing po yung mga dry runs. Yung last na na-report sa amin, more than 30,000 schools have actually undertaken dry runs. This was last week. So ang tingin po namin, since we're now on the final week, baka yung almost 40,000 na to, more than 40,000 ay ano na. And then yung po sa TV, may ongoing na rin po kami sa isang channel nung dry run din.
Yung enrollment, kumusta na siya? Dati, you were saying mga 3 million pa, you were waiting for another 3 million to enroll. Nadagdagan na ba yung nadagdag pa sa ano? Nabawasan na ba yung ano, yung backlog?
As of this morning po, ang datos namin, 88.92% of previous year's enrollment ang nakabalik, 24.69 million. Sa public schools, 99.57% na, 22.47 million. Ang private schools po, ang 50.23 million, 2.162 million yung enrollees nila. So may mga hindi pa ho talaga bumalik, about 11%.
In actual numbers, ilan yun?
We have like 27, so ano pa rin po, more than 2 million pa.
2 million pa, mama. So nakaka 1 million kayo in less than 2 weeks, eh? So tuloy-tuloy pa rin yung enrollment?
Yes po, kung yung dating trend, normally po yung first day of classes, ang daming dumadagsa dyan. Pero ngayon, since walang face-to-face, hindi po natin makikita yung pagdadagsa. Pero ang tingin po natin ay mayroon pa rin pong magpapalista. I-consider din po dito, di ba, yung na-report na rin namin na 398,000 plus learners from private schools ay nag-seek ng transfer sa public. But as after September po, nung nagbukas na yung private school at unti-unti na rin nagbukas yung ekonomiya, parang yung trend of the transfer, yung migration, natigil na. Parang nag-stabilize na po yung datos.
Yusek,
Okay,
kamusta
sir.
pala yung mga materials natin? Kasi you have 6 days to go. Sorry. Well, Yusek, kamusta po materials natin? Kasi you have only 6 days to go before opening eh. How are the modules going?
Yes, there you go.
Ang reported po sa amin as of yung press con namin yesterday, 80% ng mga na-produce na self-learning modules, yung kukuha po ng printed option, ay na-distribute na-deliver na. So may mga about 20% pa ho na inaasahan tayo between yesterday hanggang po sa Lunes. Ang expectation po natin, even before Monday, ang significant number ng ating mga schools ay nakapag-distribute na po itong mga self-learning modules.
That's good to hear, sir. Kasi earlier we heard na kinat ng DBM yung proposed budget ng DepEd for the modules by around half. So how are we there? We're okay naman as far as the number of modules. But this is only for the first quarter, di ba?
First quarter po, may option naman po, although generally po sa first quarter, 1:1 yung iniready ng mga regional offices. Pero po yung mga quarters 3 and 4 and even 2 ay ine-explore na rin po namin na magpa-rotate yung rotational use of modules. May issue po ito sa risk, pero clarify naman po namin sa aming mga field offices yung pangangailangan na ma-disinfect bago ipagamit sa susunod na nagagamit. So kung mag-1 is to 2 po kami, marireduce namin yung requirement ng kalahati. The other thing that we are hoping na mangyayari po, kasi ongoing din yung mga donations ng mga gadgets like tablets, ay baka po yung mga susunod na quarters mabawas na rin yung ngayon na pinaghandaan namin 59% of the learners who indicated they would want to do printed self-learning modules ay baka rin po eventually ay mabawas din.
Okay.
May plano ninyo na wag na lang mag-periodical exam? If so, paano nyo ma-assess ang performance ng mga bata?
Ano ma'am, itong planong ito, we did this sa final quarter nung natapos na school year. Ito po kasing classroom assessment natin, criteria, 3 yung ating ginagamit. Periodical test is 20%. Tapos po yung written outputs and performance tasks. Iba-iba po yung weight noon depending on the learning area. So nagre-range po sa 30, 40, 60 or ano po. Basta po may mga 50-50 siya or 40-40-20 dati. Ngayon po yung weight ng periodical exam didistribute natin dito sa dalawang natirang criteria ng classroom assessment. So we refer to the written outputs, yung pong mga exercises nila at mga kung possible yung quizzes. Tapos po yung mga sinulat, mga reflection papers. Tapos po yung performance task. Usually, put together po nila ito into a learning portfolio. Inaasahan din po natin na ang mga teachers, whether using the phone calls or text messages or kung possible na mga neighbors lang naman nila yung mga bata, marami pong mga ganitong situations in rural areas. Magkaroon din ng conversation on the lessons that were covered para po matansya at makita kung yung mga nalagay sa learning portfolio ay talagang ginawa ng bata at the same time naunawaan yung mga aralin na pinag-usapan sa quarter na yun.
Sir, kanina pinag-usapan natin yung materials. Kumustahin ko rin po yung mga teachers naman natin. How are teachers, not just in terms of readiness, but literally in terms of quantity? Do we have enough? Tanungin din po natin yung plano nyo nga to hire the so-called para-teachers or yung learning support aides o tinatawag na LSAs. Particularly, there was some hope expressed na baka yung mga na-displaced from the private schools might be accommodated under this program. Kamusta po yung kalalagayan natin pagdating sa mga teachers naman?
Yung maglalabas po ng official policy kasi nasa tina-finalize pa po yung policy, but ongoing na po yung mga initiatives kasi dati na po na-share ko na the operationalization and contextualization of the learning continuity plan has been given to the schools and the division offices. So yung pong mga coordination pagdating dito sa LSAs na ito ay sa school na rin. May mga namomonitor po kami na nakipag-ugnayan sila sa local governments or other concerned parties. May mga LSAs po yata na may sponsor din ng program ng DOLE sa TUPAD. And so iba-iba po yung magiging anyo ng financing nito at yung manifestation of interest ay direkta na po sa mga schools. At ang pag-decide po kung magkakaroon sila ng ganitong pangangailangan ay isang-ayon din sa survey nila sa kanilang mga magulang at mga learners. Kasi nga po, this is supposed to be for learners whose parents are saying they are not capable of extending support to their own children or they have work to do, so they need someone to do it on their behalf.
Yusek, how true are the stories about teachers having to print their own modules for teaching and them having to spend thousands of pesos just for the printing, not to mention the purchase of bond paper? Congressman Marcoleta actually raised this in one of the budget hearings, and even now we're receiving similar complaints. Pwede ba natin maliwanagan? Ano po ba yung issue na yan? Totoo ba yan na sila raw ang magpiprint ng module, sila ang bibili ng bond paper?
Kasi nga po na empower yung mga schools and division offices to decide on their scheme of reproducing. Pero ang guidelines naman po namin very clear na may fund na binigay ang DepEd, dinownload po sa mga field units natin. At totoo na may mga issues din po sa mga donations. At ang sinasabi namin, if interested parties are willing to help the schools raise the resources needed, the difference nung nabigay namin ay pinapayagan po pero in kind dapat. At naunawaan po natin that some teachers were not able to wait for the downloaded funds. Ang sabi po ng ating tanggapan sa office ng USEC for Finance, pwede naman po yung mga ginastos nila pag may resibo na isubmit para ma-reimburse yung expenses nila. Pagdating po dun sa effort, ang pagkakaunawa ko po, those that are willing or that would wish to volunteer to be part of the team that reproduces and distributes even the self-learning modules will be allowed. Pero kung yung pinipilit sila, wala naman pong instruction on yung central office at hindi naman po ganyan yung inaasahan natin. Pero yun na nga po, we understand there are certain schools na sinasabi nga na pinipilit yung mga teacher na sila mismo ang mag-produce ng resources to be
So for the record, they should supply it. For the record, the school should be able to supply it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's the instruction we had. May inilabas pong DepEd order on how it has to be done. Initially po, yan yung natin. At pag may nagre-report din pong ganyan, ay verify natin. At so far, naman nga po, ang sabi ng mga school officials ay yung mga naging bahagi ng kanilang teams that reproduced are those that came as volunteers or nagpakita ng kanilang commitment and professionalism as fellow teachers in the Department of Education.
Yusek,
sabi niyo po kanina,
teachers,
sige po, go ahead, Ami.
There are thousands of teachers na na-displaced from the private schools kasi daan-daan yata tayo nagsara sa kanila. are they applying sa public school, and are you accepting teachers from private schools?
Ang pagkakaunawa ko po ay priority usually kasi po normally they would have an edge considering that the experience is a significant factor sa mga binibilang when they are assessed. Yes po, ang hiring naman po is ongoing, so they would be considered. I'm not very sure kung may extra priority, but sabi ko nga po, naturally they would end up ranking higher than the new graduates, the fresh graduates, because of their experience. Totoo po yun, more than 800 ang na-monitor natin na nag-notify sa DepEd that they will suspend operation for this coming school year. And most of these are small elementary schools in the regions of Calabarzon, NCR, and Region 3.
Yusek, nabanggit nyo kanina na yung first quarter, more or less, wala na kayong problema sa modules. You're already at past 80%. Pero I think you also mentioned na yung second and third and fourth quarter, you're looking at the rotation of the modules. Ano pong ratio titingnan yung rotation ng modules? Ilang percent? Ano ratio ng students to the modules? Ang pinaka na po, yung maximum ay 4, but ang naririnig ko 2 is the choice of many, and sa tingin po namin yung resources namin will allow the 1:2 rotation of the self-learning modules, the printed ones. Wala akong risk yan, hindi significant ng risks.
Ang ibig sabihin po, if we will allow 2 learners to use to share modules, this would mean that instead of for example, weekly module for the 8 learning areas, ang mangyayari po, 2 modules ang ibibigay sa isang estudyante, 4 lang yung learning area na aaralin niya for the next 2 weeks. Tapos po, after 2 weeks, saka magpapalitan ng mga self-learning modules.
Yusek, I recently saw some reports from advocates for children, particularly those advocating for safety. And sinasabi nila, as millions of students are required to go online, one unintended consequence might be that we're exposing more children to safety issues online that they may not be aware of or they may not be prepared for. Is online safety for children, and for that matter, for their parents, is that part of the program? Is that part of the curriculum that DepEd is taking into account?
Our office po of the USEC for Legal Affairs has partnered with the UNICEF and other non-government organizations. I understand Save the Children in designing a series of webinars and capacity building activities for our fellow teachers and parents to orient them on how to ensure that the children are protected even as we do the different distance learning delivery modalities. So I think they were provided the inputs, like the basic information on how to extend support to ensure that the kids will be somehow protected from all sorts of harm.
Okay. Undersecretary Diosdado San Antonio ng DepEd, sir, maraming salamat po for joining us tonight.
Maraming salamat, sir.
Thank you po.
Thank you very much po. Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, breaking news,
Okay, breaking news. Yeah.
In a few
Nagkasundo na
moments,
sila.
meron na.
Over 14 daw.
Nakakagulat ng resulta.
Hindi ba?
Wala nang nagawa yung super majority at yung super minority.
Yung super majority
At yung super manifesto hindi umubra.
So gentlemen,
sa kabila. Super majority na sa kabila.
And yeah. In the name of God So
teka muna, linawin ko lang, gentleman's agreement ang nanaig.
November 14, petsang uupo si Congressman Lord Alan Velasco bilang speaker.
Kagaya na sinabi mo kanina kay Lucy, no? I mean, even setting all the politics aside, the real implications here is you have a budget to pass. And then on top of that, lahat ng pinagsasabi ng supermajority kay Lord Alan Velasco this past week, I mean, it's gonna be a very awkward start to his term.
Ang sarap
Mag-distancing
manood,
ngayon
ang
sila.
sarap manood ng magiging behavior or actuation nila toward the speaker whom they, essentially set aside.
Mag-distancing din sila sa mga signature nila.
Political distancing ang tawag doon.
I expect we will start seeing a recalibration of the messaging starting tomorrow.
Okay.
Pero, teka, nagkalinawan ba kung anong taon ng October 14th?
Tapos lang yung budget. Okay.
Okay, it's time to say goodbye.
Okay.
Okay. That will be all for this Tuesday edition of the Chiefs. We hope what was discussed here will keep the conversation going. I'm Edwin Galpon News.
I'm Ambi Pamintuan of the Philippine Star.
I'm Lucy Cruz Valdez of News 5.
I'm Robbie Alampay. We are One News.